screen. And please note our disclaimer. This session is intended to be informational and educational and does not constitute legal or financial advice. Consult your legal or financial advisor for advice regarding your personal situation. AARP is not responsible for the consequences of any decisions or actions taken in reliance upon or as a result of the information provided during this event. Today's program will be focusing on those of us who have a strong solo independent spirit, those of us who choose to live and travel alone but want to do it safely. You may be joining today too because you worry about someone living alone or traveling alone or about doing it yourself. Whatever the reason, we're delighted to have you. And we have a public safety and law enforcement expert who will walk us through what kinds of things we can do to manage our safety and still enjoy our independence. So let's take a short survey of our audience today. Please answer really quickly. We got a lot to cover today. What safety measures do you have in place now at home? Check all that apply. You have a home security system or safety device. You have daily, weekly check-ins with friends and loved ones. You know your neighbors. You have a plan for medical emergencies and disasters. Has the appearance of others at home or something else? Oh, wow. A lot of know my neighbors. That's really good. Home security systems are running about 46%. Check-ins are 64%. That's very good. Know my neighbors, 79%. Have a plan for medical emergencies, 47%. And has the appearance of others at home, 25%. And a few have other systems in place. Thank you for sharing. Okay. And let's for our second poll question. What helps you feel safe and confident when traveling alone? Check all that apply. Well-reviewed accommodations, staying in touch with loved ones, having emergency numbers, contacts handy, giving the impression that you are not alone, traveling during daylight hours, or something else. Please put it in the chat. Let us know. Just about 65% are well-reviewed accommodations. Staying in touch, 66%. Having emergency numbers, 75%. That's really good. Giving the impression that you're not alone, 27%. Traveling during daylight hours, 75%. 75%. And others, something else. Thank you so much for answering our poll questions. We're going to get them answered by our expert today and give us some additional tips. Today, we have Senior Inspector Jason Collom, who has been in law enforcement for 28 years, with 9 years in patrol and 19 years in investigations. For 11 years, he specialized in investigating elder financial abuse cases at the San Francisco District Attorney's Office. Jason is a recognized white collars expert who has traveled across the US and abroad to present his case studies to law enforcement and prosecution groups from over a dozen countries. He has testified as an expert witness in the US and in Canada. So whether it's a 3-day trip or a 3-month trip, Jason has been traveling around the world, often alone with one backpack for 20 years. Jason is also a devoted son who regularly looks in on his mom, making sure she's safe. Love that, Jason. In the interest of time, though, please type your questions into the chat and we will address them at the end of the presentation. Jason, welcome.
Thank you, AARP. Thank you for having me, everyone.
So glad to have you. Now, Jason, while I have just shared a short bit about in your bio. Can you tell us just a little bit more about yourself?
Just a normal guy. Got into law enforcement immediately after college, and here I am, 28 years, almost 30 years later, actually. And one of the things that I found out being in investigations for all these years, especially on white collar crime cases, is that it's very difficult to make a victim whole if we can ever. And it's really important. It's more important, I think, to prevent somebody from falling victim to a crime than to try to make them whole or recover their losses for them afterwards. Because even though the money may come back to them, other things might not once somebody has been victimized.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Jason, for sharing that. We have a lot to cover today. So let's first discuss safety at home and living alone. What are some tips you have to share?
Well, I'd like to start with the free tips because I always like free. So in terms of the free tips, let's start off with something. One of the top topics that most people miss is that a security survey conducted by your local police department. So police departments, big and small. It's not in every city and every jurisdiction, but police departments, big and small, usually have a unit or civilian volunteers that will do help you do a security survey of your home. So basically, you make an appointment, and somebody from the police department will come over to your house, take a look at all of the potential entries and exits for the bad guys, and give you some recommendations on how to store your valuables, and how to kind of keep your house look like it's defensible and look like it's less attractive to the bad guys. So basically, it's almost like having me come over to your house to let you know what you can do to make your house harder for somebody to penetrate. Let's just say. And then moving on to the next free item, I love this one. It's the lighting. So lighting, and I'm not talking about lighting just on the inside, but lighting for the outside, lighting for the backyard, the front. And one of my favorite things is just throughout your day, throughout the evening when you're home, alter the lighting pattern around your house. Sometimes turn on the light in one bedroom, other times turn on the light in the bathroom, other times turn on the light in the backyard in the front. And during the day, a lot of folks wouldn't want to turn on the lights in the front because it might look like to the bad guy that somebody left their house for a few days and they just left the night light on the outside. So keep that in mind. But in terms of inside the house, one of the best lights that you can use is probably the bathroom lights, because a lot of times folks on the outside are able to tell where the bathroom is, because the window is usually smaller and it's usually frosted. And if you turn on that light with the fan on, folks that do door knocks to figure out whether there's anybody home, they're gonna know that the resident might be in the bathroom and you're just not hearing the door knock. But it really puts a presence to the house when you turn on that bathroom light with a fan. And again, that's something that you can get a timer for, turn it on and off, and you do it yourself while you're there. In terms of blinds, I get this, having investigated senior financial abuse for last 11 years, it really shocks me that I go to a lot of seniors' homes or anybody's home who stays at home after retirement. They keep their blinds shut, and the house is super dark, super gloomy. And I always say, hey, why do you do that, knowing what the reason is? It's almost like they we if we have this mentality that if we don't see them, then they don't see us. So if we don't see the bad guys, then they don't see us. And I don't want folks to know that I live alone. But I tell you what, just for me, just driving by, responding to calls back on patrol, when I see a house with blinds that are open, with windows on the second floor inaccessible to just straight climbing in open, to me, it feels like a more lived-in home. And to me, if all your blinds are closed, your windows are shut day and night, it's more indicative that somebody is not there than somebody is there. And I tell you what, bad guys look for the easy prey, right? So if they drive by a house with all closed windows, all closed blinds, they're going to say that one is empty. But if they drive by your house and see that your blinds, your windows are open, your lights are on, they're going to say somebody's there. I'll move on. Another one that Sophie actually brought up from AARP is that somebody suggested putting a phone or an alert device inside a Ziploc plastic bag in the shower. I took it one further. One of my coworkers, he thinks that being in the shower, it's the most vulnerable time that he's at home. He actually puts a pistol inside a Ziploc bag, which I would not recommend. But for the rest of us, I think it's very sage advice to put your phone in a Ziploc bag and have it readily accessible near the tub or the shower enclosure, just in case something happens to you or something externally that you can't control. Knowing your neighbors, I am really glad that I see a huge percentage of folks that know their neighbors. It's not just knowing the neighbors and they know you, it's also knowing their pattern of life, knowing what kind of cars they drive, who usually visits them, and what they do, what are their hours of operation during the day. Because if you look outside the window, you see a strange car, you can say, hey, look, that doesn't belong to the next door neighbor here, nor the neighbor across the street. Maybe I should call the police about it. Now, this happened to me twice already where I live over the last 20 years. One time I was going to work and I saw a car parked outside my neighbor's house. I don't recognize this car, and it looked like it had a lot of stuff inside. So I called my neighbor up or texted my neighbor that morning right away as I was leaving and say, hey, do you have a visitor? Because there's a car outside your house. He says, no. He looks outside. He says, yeah, I don't know either. He called the police. Well, it turns out it was a thief who's been going around the neighborhood taking everyone's mail, and he fell asleep in the car in front of my neighbor's house. So he was arrested. And another group, I saw two cars parked alongside a major street that kids walk by, and I smell marijuana coming out of the car. And one thing is it's independent, but putting all together, I said, you know what, I better call. And turns out the drivers of both cars and some of the occupants all had warrants, and they were just looking for a quiet place in front of a tree to have a party inside the car. So again, just out of normal pattern of life. This way you recognize the problem before you're a victim, and alter your pattern of life too. For me, really important is that you know your neighborhood. Many of us just come and go straight to the bank, straight to the grocery store, come back, go to work on the same street. But you know what? Take your time and open your mind and drive different routes. Take 4 different routes or pick another route just randomly. Nowadays with GPS on your phone, you really can't get lost. And besides, if you just drive around your neighborhood, really you recognize landmarks and you can't be lost. And why do I say alter your pattern of life is because just looking at recent stats, I had a talk with some crime prevention folks over at Oakland Police Department. One of I say, hey, what kinds of robberies are you seeing? What are the highest stats? So two places where it's a weak point. It's a point that the bad guys exploit is that they see seniors coming out of the bank and they follow them home and they get robbed before they get into the house. We're some of the last folks who deal in cash, and we're some of the last folks who have a regular time that we go to the bank. And the other spot is the dollar store, surprisingly. Dollar store is one of the highest follow home robbery stats. And I think the reason is if you look around the dollar store, which I go to a lot, there are a lot of folks like us out trying to save a few bucks. And that's also where the bad guys know it's folks like us who are older with savings who go to dollar store to shop. And so they get followed home, they get robbed. And the most important takeaway from that is, if you vary your pattern of life, you vary your route, if you keep looking in the mirror and say, hey, look, maybe a car is following me, or maybe you take an extra couple of turns or go down a cul-de-sac and come back out. It's called counter surveillance. Before coming out, you not just learn your neighborhood more, you not just see more stuff, but you might actually thwart a bad guy's attempt to rob you because they might be tired of following you around. And the most important thing is, if you do get confronted by the bad guys in front of your house, do not go inside the house. Do not go inside the house. Stay outside, stay in the public where you can be seen. If they demand something from you, give it to them, but don't go inside the house. Throw away the keys. Throw the keys on the street if you have to. Do not go inside the house. So next item, let's talk about low cost. We talked about free, and now we're talking about low cost. So in talking to Sophie from AARP, another person came up with a great idea. Female living alone, they want to leave a large pair of men's shoes outside. So for me, I'll take that another step. So in San Francisco specifically, we actually started recommending folks to take their shoes inside, because we have a huge Asian American population in San Francisco, and Asian Americans tend to not walk into the house with shoes. So there's a huge shoe rack outside, and that's usually indicative of an Asian American household. And we've had a huge problem with home invasion robberies of Asian American residents in San Francisco, because it's this, different perceptions. There might be perception that we hold more cash in the house. And so we started recommending Asian Americans to not leave their shoes on the porch. So alternatively, what I would do with the large men's shoes is go to Goodwill, pick yourself up the largest pair of men's shoes you can find, and dirty them up, dip them in mud, dirty them up, and just put it in your side yard, or put it somewhere else off of the front door to make it look like it's a work boot from a very large man, whether it be your son, your husband, or yourself. It doesn't matter. So think about that. Something very cheap, very simple. Pick up a pair of boots, dirty them up, and maybe put a couple of pieces of garden tools next to it to make it seem like somebody else is there and somebody's looking out for you, right? Garage door and front windows. Boy, I don't know. It's really cool to have windows in your garage door, the ones that go up top, or the clear garage door, but it also helps the bad guys see that no one is home. So one of the cheaper things to do is just go ahead and tape some double-sided paper up on there, or just get a cheap can of clear matte varnish and just paint those windows, and it'll frost out those windows and people aren't able to look in. Some of the front doors, half of it is glass, and I understand it lets more light in, but think about having some kind of a sheer fabric curtain, just so people are not just looking straight into the house to see whether there's something there, right? And a lot of folks house I go to, they tend to really barricade themselves with that front door. And they spent tons of money on these very, very expensive locks to secure that front door. But unfortunately, the majority of the burglary cases that I see, the entry is made to the backyard, not the front door, not a front door kick, not a front door lock pick, but the back. So how do you protect the backside? The backside is usually glass sliding doors. They just break the glass sliding door. But the idea is secure your side gates, put padlocks on your side gate, make your side gate fence a little higher, and you can do that with very cheap materials to make it higher, right? Just a little bit of 2x4 and just a little bit of scrap fencing material. It'll cost you under 50 bucks. Secure the side, therefore securing the back. Battery powered motion sensing interior lights. And I think this is a great idea, not just for the closets, but for anywhere in the house that you might lose power that you need access to. For example, your hallway, your bathroom, super cheap. You can get them mail order. $20 for like a 3-pack or $40 for like a 6-pack. You put batteries in them, you use double-sided tape, and you stick them all over the house wherever you think that you might need lighting in case the light goes out. And as you walk by, it'll just come on. It's not going to be bright enough for you to read a book, but at least it's bright enough for you to see what's going on. And if there's an intruder in the house, they will set off that motion sensing light, and you'll be able to see them. Rechargeable flashlights. You can get a 4-pack of it from any mail order sources for $20 to $40. Just plug them in strategic places so you always have access to lighting in your hand, because one of the things about power going out is that everything goes dark and you feel like you're by yourself and you're vulnerable at that time. If you get some light, it's not just physical security, it's also mental security, right? Locking mailbox. I just had this conversation with my mother. Her mailbox is getting old. It's getting rusty. And for some reason, when she was backing up the car, the mailbox jumped in front of her car and she rolled it over. So it's time to replace that mailbox. Do consider a locking mailbox. What it'll do is that it's harder for the bad guys to steal your mail, steal your identity from that. And also, if you take a look at some of the locking mailboxes, there's a mail slot. Once you drop the mail in, you can't tell if there's mail inside or not. So let's say you go away for a few days, and you don't do a mail hold. The mail person drops the mail. Bad guys can open your mailbox and see there's a stack of mail that hasn't been picked up. They'll just see a slot and they won't be able to look inside the mailbox. Motion sensing lights inside and outside. Again, they don't have to be the fancy ones with the cameras, the ones that connect to your smartphone. They can be the $12 motion sensing lights. All they are, they just replace your regular standard lights, super easy, 2-wire or 3-wire hookup and 2 screws, right? And somebody walks by, it's gonna light it. And if you've got cameras on the outside, it'll make the person stand out even more. And it also helps you out as you go inside and out. And the other higher cost, the last higher cost thing that I recommend is it's a fall alert, some kind of a fall alert device that you wear on you, or just simply a phone app. If you have a smartphone, learn how to download that app. The phone can detect motion, they can detect trauma, and they can also help notify folks. So that can be almost a free app on its own, and keep that on you. So for the more expensive options, I see that a lot of folks in the survey got alarms. Alarms are great. Alarms are wonderful, but a lot of times I find that a lot of my senior victims, they did have alarms, burglar alarms in the house, but because they trip it themselves so often, they got tired of calling the alarm company to let them know that they tripped the alarm, and they stopped using it. Please use your alarm. Please, please, please. If you need to leave yourself notes to remind yourself to turn it off, do that. Sound devices, it scares folks off. Again, a lot of these burglars, they're looking for an easy target. They're not looking for any type of resistance. So the harder you make your home, the harder it is you make it on them. Cameras. If you do invest in a camera, I do recommend a hardwired system versus one that's over the Wi-Fi, so it's less easily hacked by the bad guys and interrupted. Those get expensive, but if you're going to spend the money, make sure you get a camera that's at least 4K resolution and above, something super clear. We were able to solve a case last year because there was a neighbor with a 4K camera outside in their garage. And it's a wide angle camera, and we were able to catch a crime scene, and with identifiable captures, photo captures of the bad guys 4 houses down the street from this camera. Because it was 4K, we were able to zoom in and get really clear pictures. And one thing that always, and mounting location, make sure that your cameras are mounted down low, or maybe what I always suggest is by the mailbox post, because a lot of bad guys drive up to your house or park on your driveway or drive in front of it. This way, if you mount it at your mail post, you'll be able to catch your license plate first. And lastly, one of the things that people always talk about in terms of home security and home defense is firearms, guns in the house. Now, this is just my thought, okay? Think about this. Do you have the mindset for it? Ask yourself honestly, if you own a firearm, do you have the mindset? Are you ready to pull the trigger to stop the threat? Are you ready to take another person's life? Are you ready to have somebody bleed and die in your house? Think about that. Number two with the firearm is access. Where are you going to have this gun? Are you going to have it on your hip as you're walking around your house? Are you going to have it on your hip as you're walking around or doing chores outside the house? You can't, if you are confronted by somebody who wants to do you harm, you can't say, hey, wait a minute. Let me go to the bedroom. Let me unlock my safe and take my gun out so I can address you. You can't do that. And so what happens is that a lot of folks ended up, at first, when they purchase a firearm, they're pretty good about locking it away before they go to work. And they use it, they keep it by their bedside at night. But later on, it becomes a hassle. Later on, it becomes a chore. And so they leave it out. And so a huge amount of our gun crimes out there are actually committed with crime guns that were taken in burglaries, guns that were legally purchased by decent people who just were not very good about securing their firearms. So think about it. Do you want to put more guns out on the street? Retention. Let's just say you do have this gun in your hand while you're confronted by a bad person who may or may not want to do you harm, who probably want to do you harm when you're in the house, right? Do you think you can actually hang on to this gun if they want to wrestle with you? Do you think you can pull the trigger before they can close the distance and take your gun? Storage. We talked about that a little bit. Again, where are you going to keep it? Are you going to keep it on you? Are you going to keep it in the safe? What's the use of it's in the safe and you're outside doing your artwork and being confronted by somebody, right? Lastly, and just like the very first thing, mindset. It's all about the mindset, okay? Having a firearm, I know it might make you feel better because I can say, hey, look, I've got a gun. I'm ready to defend myself. Are you really ready? Because I can tell you this, after being in a police officer for almost 30 years, being a firearms instructor, having responded to officer-involved shootings, I've got officers who's got 10 years on, 15 years on, 30 years on, came to a situation where they could have used their firearms to help minimize the injuries to themselves or others. They did not do it. They did not do it. They weren't able to pull the trigger. And I tell you another one. I taught a civilian, a district attorney, a deputy district attorney, how to shoot. And for a year, we went shooting. This district attorney had their own firearm. Really good during the scenarios when I was teaching. We even went as far as setting up targets and doing moving shooting drills. But when I took this deputy district attorney to the first stressful situation, which wasn't really, it was just a pistol match. It's a pistol match. And guess what? This otherwise 100% shooter during practice and during training at this match, just with a little pressure on themselves, most of those rounds didn't even end up on the silhouette paper. Scary, right? So that's my takeaway on the gun. I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, but just my experience. So again, the last thing to wrap this up, the takeaway for security at home is have a plan. Always have a plan. Think about what I've talked about. Think about what you can do. Think about checking in with others and having an outside point of contact, right? Trust your gut. I know a lot of times nowadays we're supposed to desensitize ourselves to threats. We walk down the street in San Francisco and somebody super crazy is screaming, raising their arms, coming close to you. We're just supposed to say, well, you know, they're okay. They're just suffering from whatever problem it is. I'll continue walking down the street. Well, don't do that. Cross the street. Trust your gut, okay? We have basic instincts. We have basic instincts that keep us alive. Trust those instincts. Don't be worried that you're going to offend this person if that you feel like they're threatening you and you're going to cross the street, or if you have to step out of the elevator. Okay? Door knocker. So dealing with door knockers, you know, being a retiree, I hear a lot of folks, they have folks that knock on their doors, ring their bells all the time, either sell stuff or worse. I've seen where they ring their doorbell, they want to talk, and they turn out they kicked in the front door while talking and robbed them. So one of the things I always say is that a lot of folks want to ignore those people and just pretend nobody's inside. For me, consider this, right? I always respond to them, and if you're female, you can always say something, make something up. I always say, hey, look, I'm hard of hearing. I can't hear you through the door, and my son is in the toilet right now. So can you come back if you need to talk to us about something? My son is in the toilet. My husband is in the toilet. My mom is in the toilet right now. Okay? So address them, because what they're also looking for is they're looking for the empty house with nobody in so they can make their entry, right? Address them. Think of something smart. And I can't emphasize, when you go to the bank for your once a month or twice a month withdrawal, look around, alter your pattern of life, right? Stop by somewhere first. Stop by for a cup of coffee. Meet a friend before going home. Don't go straight to the bank and come home. Dollar stores, same thing. Alter your pattern of life. And the very last takeaway is, if you're accosted, if you confront it in front of your house, do not go inside. Stay outside in public. Toss the keys in the bushes as far as you can. Just like car keys, house keys, you can always find them later.
Okay, Jason, those are some great tips. Audience, do you have any more tips? If you do, put them in the chat. So, excuse me, and moving along, sometimes despite our best efforts, bad things do happen. Can you briefly give us some tips about calling the police? What kinds of things should I do, not do?
Call the police on anything. It's our job to respond to you. It's our job to listen to you. And unfortunately, just having personal experience and knowing some of the folks, you might get the very bored, annoyed dispatcher, and you might get the very bored, annoyed officer who shows up. But it is very important that you report these cases. Having worked in the back office, as in I'm at the district attorney's office, where I see cases, conglomerate cases from different police agencies. In that situation, in that setting, I'm able to see patterns more than what a local police agency or a station can see. So if I see that one police agency is dealing with a certain type of crime, well, it turns out it's not in isolation. Turns out it might be a series going on with another local police agency in, let's just say in San Francisco. The US Park Police is in our jurisdiction, so is SFPD, so is Housing Authority, and so is BART, right? So none of those police agencies really talk to each other. But if they start taking cases with similar modus of operandi, and they get somebody that they can charge, it comes to the DA's office. I see a conglomerate of all those cases from the different police agencies in San Francisco, and I can say, hey, I think there's a pattern to it. I think there's one person or a group of folks who are doing this. And if you get the brush off from the police department saying that, you know what, I'm not going to cut a report on this, call BS on them and say, no, you will cut a report on it. You will give me an incident number. I need to follow up on this. And if they still refuse to come out to take the report or refuse to give you a case number, escalate it. call the police department, talk to the watch supervisor. And if the watch supervisor says, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time because we're never going to catch anyone. And I used to get a lot of that with these telephone scam calls because they said, look, we don't know who these guys are. We'll never catch them. We're not going to take your case. Basically, the agency is saying that we don't want an unsolved crime in our stats, or we don't want a felony stat to stay in our books because we know that's not going to be solved. Call that BS. And if they refuse to take the report, contact your local district supervisor, your elected officials. And every time that I've recommended somebody call their elected official because the police department locally didn't take their case, guess what? The police department came and took their report. And I was able to see those cases.
Thank you. Thank you so much. If you're just joining us, we're talking about safety tips with Senior Inspector Jason Collom. So be sure and put your questions in the chat and we will get to as many of them as we have time for. So Jason, let's talk about traveling solo and being safe. Can you tell us some tips on traveling? Because it can be incredibly empowering and it can be fun. And I know you've done a lot of solo traveling. So what tips do you have for us?
My number one tip, bring as little as possible. There's no one I've met, or I've never had this experience, is that when I'm traveling abroad, I never said, you know, I should have brought more stuff with me. It's usually the other way around. So you're out there, enjoy yourself. So talking about security is one of the first things is determining how long you're gonna be gone and determining whether you should get a mail hold or not. And for folks who's never heard of a mail hold, is you have to do it in person now. It used to be you can do it online, but you got to do it in person now for safety reasons. Have your ID with the address on it. You can file a mail hold with the post office, declaring the periods of time that you're not going to be in town and therefore not getting mail. So the post office will be able to hold your mail for that period of time until you return to pick up the mail. So this obviously is so to indicate to the bad guy that, hey, your mailbox is not full. Somebody is actually picking up the mail. So a great thing. So bills, your credit card statements, or maybe even credit card checks that get mailed to your mailbox, and usually you might have to sit in your mailbox, or you have to depend on a relative to drive somewhere to try to pick up your mail, or depend on that undependable teenager kid next door to help you grab your mail every day and hassle them. Well, you can skip all that, just having the post office hold your mail. And of course, research before you go, right? It's not just research as to where you want to go. It's also research on whether you should go, whether it's the right time to go, right? You're not looking at the weather alone. You're looking at whether there's going to be, whether there's an uprising or a storm season. Always research before you go, right? Do as much research as you can, but at the same time, leave yourself open and I'll talk about this further down the line. Leave yourself open to new experience. You can research something to death, but leave yourself a lot of room to explore. One of the first websites that I visit when I visit a foreign country, before I visit a foreign country, is the U.S. Department of State website. In the travel section, overseas travel section, they have some very, very useful segments. And those segments will be brought up in the chat later on. It basically gives you the situation whether the State Department recommends that you go or recommends that you don't go, kind of give you some of the heads up. And also really important is it gives you tips on what happens, what you should do before you leave to prepare for the time if you lost your passport. Because if you don't have your passport and you're overseas, you can't come home. And the State Department website has got some really, really good tips, because they're the ones who issue the passport, on what to do if you do happen to lose your passport. And really important is that for us, and it's such a simple thing. If we just pick up the phone and dial 911, we get medical help, we get fire help, and we get police help. It turns out that is not That is not across the globe. I've been to places where it's a different 6-digit phone number for fire, different 6-digit phone number for police, different 6-digit number for ambulance. So find out what they are, where you're going, and remember, in Europe, you cross countries without knowing you cross countries. That's how easy. You either just walk across the street, like in Monaco, and you're in a different country, or you walk across, or you take the train one stop, and you're in another country. So again, those telephone numbers for emergency services change even if you cross the street. So know those numbers, put those in your phone, and try to memorize the important ones like paramedic service, right? Share the plans with someone you trust. This came up in the chat, and I'm glad most people do that. So share your plan is really important, but don't share them on Nextdoor and say, hey, look, I'm going to France for a month. And true story, I had a neighbor, I'm going to France for a month, and I'm bringing my infant child. What are the requirements for a child safety seat in their rental car, right? It's Nextdoor. We know where you are. And then people actually put their real names on Nextdoor. So they just broadcasted that they're going to be out of the country for a month. Sounds innocent enough that they're asking a question about child seat, right? But you just told everybody you're going to be out. And that's, if you ever done a Google search on person, places, people, right? These Nextdoor chats, they're searchable for anyone. So please limit what you share online, right? And then another great thing about another great app to share your plans. And I know a lot of us aren't very sophisticated when it comes to communication apps, but know WhatsApp. WhatsApp is great. It lets you communicate with people back home and overseas just over the internet for free. But one of the greatest thing about WhatsApp is that there's a section called updates in the lower left part. You can post pictures of where you are. You can post messages of where you are. It's great if you just make sure that the update is shared with people in your trusted group. Let's just say you limit sharing to only your family back home, and you take pictures and you put in an update. So every day they get an update of a series of photographs. They can see you're alive, you're wherever it is that they can determine, right? And it's only this set group of people. You don't have to individually text them, hey, look, I'm going here, I'm going there, right? Use the update so that the limited number of people that you share your update with can see where in the world you are. And if you have any problems, you can also post them in the update, write something on there, type something in there so they can see, right? Make copies of your important documents. The State Department will say, make copies of your passport, right? With the visa page too. I go beyond that. Anything that's in your wallet, make copies of that. I'm talking about hard copies, the old time photocopies, right? Have that in your money belt. Carry a money belt. Only put enough cash on the outside pocket for a lunch and a snack. In Europe, that usually means about less than 15 euros. In Japan, that usually means about 10 bucks, right? So just keep enough cash in your outside pocket so you're not worried about having to watch your wallet, watch your phone, and any other valuables that you bring along with you. That's just one less thing to worry about, right? Carry your passport with you. Make sure it's in the money belt. Use the money belt, okay? In terms of those documents too, other than the hard copies that you carry with you, take pictures of them. And if you don't know how to use your cloud, learn how to use the cloud storage before you leave. Because what happened, why is the cloud important? Let's just say in the unfortunate circumstance that you get your smartphone stolen overseas, or you lose it, or you drop in the water, right? No big deal. Everything, if you backed everything up on your cloud, all you got to do is buy a new cheapy phone, access your cloud, and all your pictures, all your contacts come right back onto the new phone. Very nice technology to learn, very important to learn, right? ATM overseas, I never get money locally in the US before I go anymore because ATMs are just so easy, especially in most of the Asian countries and the Western European countries. But the important thing is always go to a bank ATM. In Japan, it's only 7-Eleven bank ATMs that will take our cards. But also, when it'll ask, read carefully, read everything carefully before you hit give me my money. Because one of the things that will ask you is, do you want this in your local currency? Or, I mean, do you want this in local currency or do you want us to convert it for you, right? Always, always ask for in local currency because if your institution that you have this ATM card through has got travel privileges, they usually give you a heck of a lot lower rate than what the ATM conversion rate gives you. So get it in local currency. eSIM, very important nowadays to carry a phone with you when you travel. Be prepared. And I just touch upon this segment. A lot of people are kind of lost on eSIM versus a SIM card, right? I was too. Super easy. Before you go, do research, just Google, hey, best eSIM for a particular country. You'll get a list on Google search, right? And after reading through a page or two, you'll come to about two or three companies that seems are pretty trustworthy. Go with one of those companies, right? And pick your plan, pick a block, pay for it, and the company will send an email with a QR code to you. So open that email on your laptop, on your device, and use your phone, scan that QR code, and now the eSIM is on your phone before you leave. Before you leave. So as soon as you touch down, your plane lands in the airport runway. I turn on my phone, switch on that eSIM, you're now hooked up to the local network, which gives you access to everything that you need, all the intel that you need for travel, right? Secure your belongings. Something super cheap I always bring along with me is this cheap carabiner with the foam, right? So why do I like this so much? Well, first is if you've got a bunch of bags, you can hold this foamy part and it's very comfortable to hold. The other thing is, I never keep my backpack between my legs on a train because on a lot of foreign trains, you're dealing with commuters, right? Super packed. They always have overhead storage. And Americans are in fear of overhead storage because they think somebody's going to run by and grab those bags from you, right? Well, guess what? Throw it in overhead storage, use this, and hook it up there. And it might look like easy prey to a bad guy when they grab it, but when they grab it, it's not going anywhere. Everybody will just laugh at them. Great thing to have. And then the other great thing to have is one of these bags that I always keep with me. It's basically a crappy reusable grocery bag, right? Fold it up in your pocket because it can hold your jacket, it can hold your new purchases. And guess what? If you've got this and a bunch of other shopping bags, you can keep them all together. And if you happen to travel with more than one piece of luggage, shame on you. You can use this to clip them all together just so you know where everything is at the same time. Hey, learn from the locals, right? If you see that nobody is wearing a suit and tie going to this particular area, think about it. Why are they not, right? Don't wear your suit and tie. Just don't be out of place. You're already out of place when you're overseas. They pick you out to be an American. So please try not to stand out even more, right? Again, I want to go back to trusting your instincts, right? If something makes the hair on the back of your head stand up, something is not right, walk away. Walk away. It doesn't matter if somebody is mid-sentence talking to you, it is your time, it is your safety. They interrupted your life. Don't think you're being rude if you turn around and walk away, right? And for me, I always joke, run away from English speakers. One is a lot of times what English speakers, especially Americans, want to do when they see me is they want to compare. Well, over here, we get this, but back home, you know what? I don't care about back home. I'm overseas to learn about overseas. I don't want to hear your complaints about back home. When I'm on a tour of the Alhambra with a bunch of Americans, I want to hear the tour guide. I don't want to hear somebody saying, back home we also have this. I don't care. Okay, so
Great
the other
tips.
part is if you run from the English speakers, you'll also avoid some of the scams, right? And finally, I really owe my independent travel experience and my backpacking to a guy named Rick Steves. And I know a lot of us have heard of Rick Steves. I do include a segment or a link to his website about overseas travel safety. I'm running out of time. I can't discuss it all, but he has some of the greatest tips that I followed for the past 20 years. And in terms of packing, that's also came from Rick Steve 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I started with a carry-on size backpack when I went for a month-long Eurail trip. Fast forward 20 years later, I'm now down to a JanSport school-size backpack, no matter whether it's going to be a 3-day trip or a 3-month trip. It's going to be a JanSport backpack. And just remember, every street that you walk down in a foreign country, in a new place, is going to be a brand new experience to you. You're not there to impress anyone. You're there to impress yourself and to see new things. Don't be wrapped up by blockbuster places that everybody talks about, that you see on YouTube and influencers and relatives want you to visit, right? Walk down any street, pick any street, sit down with the locals, have a cup of coffee, all right? Look around. Ask if you can walk into certain places. Like if you see a nice restaurant, ask if you can walk in and see the decoration because you like it so much. That's what traveling is all about, the experience. So please.
Wonderful, wonderful tips. And fortunately for us, you talked about your ID and passport and what to do and how to keep have State Department contact information. So that is really wonderful. So we're going to go over to the chat. We have time for maybe 2 questions.
That's
Joyce,
it.
what are people asking? Well, you've
So
answered a lot of things for us. So
first of all, Jason, you've done incredibly well. So thank you so very much. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of our members, I would suggest a lot of our viewing audience, make sure they get the video because it's hard to try to write down everything all at the same time to remember things. But let's go back. I want you to reiterate again. It says, how would you suggest to prevent elder abuse by a family member? Because I think you kind of touched on that a little bit about elder abuse, but since we are AARP, elder abuse should be on the top of our list. What would be another good suggestion with that one,
So,
please? Just to kind of review again.
well, unfortunately, I've been investing in those cases since day one of elder financial abuse crimes. So for 11 years, I've been on it. Real estate fraud, big deal. The problem is, it seems like when whatever the item is, whether it be a house, some kind of valuable, some kind of inheritance is gone, that's when the rest of the family members complain about it to me. For me, it's always, hey, if you don't, you have to make an effort. I know we all have very busy lives, but if you care about your family like most people do, make an effort. Give them a call. There might be differences between family members growing up over the years, right? But at the end of the day, you are family. And even though you're hundreds of miles away or even 5 miles away, right? Give each other a call. And now I've morphed to, again, I love this WhatsApp update. Okay. So WhatsApp update, build your update contact group. You can just include your family members, right? And whether they look at it or not, it doesn't matter because you're posting pictures of your daily life, right? Something as simple as, hey, I'm doing some yard work. Take pictures, selfie. I'm doing yard work, right? And so that shows your family members that you're alive and you're doing something. And it reminds them that you also are out there. You have a life. So keep in contact. Again, there are differences, and there are kids that feel that another one is favored over another, and therefore they don't, I've heard all the excuses, right, of why they're not visiting their elderly parents or their elderly siblings, right? But it comes down to you making the effort and just keeping in touch and having an avenue for this person to talk to, right? Because a lot of times my elders, they get scammed by people they know, caregivers, or others, just because these scammers listen. The victim feel like somebody's listening to them. So give your elder an avenue, for them, an outlet for them to speak to. So that's my biggest advice for prevention of that type of cases. Talk to them, listen to them.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We are actually out of time. There's lots of other questions that we would like to do, but I need to give it back to Jacqueline so we can kind of wrap this up. But you need to come back again. You need a part 2. Just kind of giving you a heads up. Back to you, Jacqueline.
Thank you, Joyce. Jason, thank you. I've learned a lot of stuff, and it's really helpful. I mean, there's a light in the bathroom. Who knew? Next month, if join us for Tea and Coffee Tuesday on September 9th at 9 a.m. Pacific time for Preparing to be a Caregiver with AARP volunteer and caregiver advocate Lee Broadway. Lee, who herself was a family caregiver for 14 years, as she shares the essential steps to take as you begin or think about beginning your caregiving journey. On August 24th, we will have Jana Davis from Abacus Wealth Advisors on the basics of estate planning. On September 18th at 9 a.m., Piggy Bank Essentials is delighted to welcome Jamie Lyell, Financial Resiliency Education Program Manager at AARP, as he explores the key limitations and considerations of working while collecting Social Security. If you would like to view previous programs or learn more about the Tea and Coffee Tuesday monthly series, check out the link which has been put in the chat. Again, thank you so much to Jason Collom for today's excellent discussion. We could go on for at least another hour with all the tips. That was really very helpful. Thank you, of course, to our Tea and Coffee Tuesday volunteers, Connie, Haresh, and Joyce, as well as the AARP staff. Yeah. And of course, thank all of you for joining us. We hope you've learned something that will help you feel safer. I'm your host, Jacqueline Cole, and I thank you so